now, because that's, that's always when we're maximizing, the best that the market has to offer. So we like to know that a home is put on the market and then it's turned around very quickly. That speaks highly of the professional that you're working with, and it speaks highly of the property. So that's kind of a winning combination. Things start feeling a little bit more tired when they're too available. And then we can compromise, the investment, and just things start going in directions that don't feel as good. So we're gonna talk a lot about, are you on the market right now, Jean?
No,
Okay.
Next summer.
I got it. Okay.
And providing the worst could happen, which it won't.
What would that be?
It is.
I'm always wondering, what is the worst? I don't know.
Sell.
Oh.
I want to be happy in those colors,
Amen.
which, may not be the colors of the day.
And likely, we don't worry too much about the colors of the day.
Good.
And that's a big part of the conversation that we're
Good.
gonna be involved with too. Okay. Oh, this is already exciting. So Jessica, I know why you're here, and you look so pretty, and I thought your head was.
And you have design, you can ask design questions.
Yeah.
For your house.
Yeah, I mean, so when we first started talking about the workshop and talking about furniture and accessories and, I don't know that I necessarily want to paint my house because I got it painted recently, but, I'm thinking about new furniture, and so again, finding something that's already going to complement what's already on the wall and what scheme to go with, what's going to be the color we thought.
So exciting. And that's yet another thing that we're gonna address, and it's gonna be fascinating how we, develop the jumping off point for our conversation, because it's so simple and yet it's really profound, so you're gonna like it. And what about both of you? I hear you came to us through Facebook?
Yeah.
Gotta love that.
My name's Shani, and Andrea and I, we do kitchen sales, design, and cabinetry. And I feel like I wanted to come to this event because I know color is my biggest weakness. We deal a lot with just kind of picking out cabinets, and people generally kind of know what they already want. But then whenever it comes down to the paint and the countertops and the backsplash and everything else, that's.
Do you all have a showroom that you're working from? Okay. Is it your showroom?
No, we work for Buckeye.
Okay. And so, do you have a lot of materials available within your showroom to share with clients and potential clients?
Yeah, I mean, we deal mainly with those products, so just cabinets, countertops, backsplash, hardware, and that's about what we have to show.
Yeah. Sure.
She has a little bit of flooring, not a huge selection, but my showroom's brand new, so we don't have the flooring aspect of it. But we can deal in paint, so we do have Benjamin Moore paint.
Yes.
And
Chris's favorite.
yeah,
It
I
is my
painted
favorite.
my bedroom and my bathroom when I moved into my house. And I just loved even their lowest price point of paint. It was great. So we have the option to sell that, and of course we can also make commission off of that. But it seems like they're two separate entities in where we work at. No one comes in to be like, hey, we want a kitchen and we want to paint it. It's like, we want our
And
cabinets.
isn't that
for
sad?
paint.
Because really now you can't have the kitchen without the paint, right? I mean,
Right.
there's gonna be paint on the wall. There's
Yeah.
gonna be something on the wall.
Especially right now, it's just like people are saying, oh, we're doing gray. We already know we're
Yes.
doing gray. We want white
Everyone wants gray.
cabinets.
Well, and
You
the
know,
good
and
news
then-
is we're cycling right out of that,
Yeah.
And so,
Perfect.
so that's, because everything is a pendulum, and so it's constantly, the energy of life is constantly moving and evolving, and although it is always moving forward, it's always kind of moving in this kind of emotion, which is also always going forward. So, it becomes sort of interesting when we look historically at, design and color and, what is popular at any point in time and what is classic and what really matters, and we're gonna delve into that too. And lastly, but certainly not least, this beautiful lady, so you are,
I would say twofold for being here.
Okay.
One, I've got a couple rooms in my house that there's always ideas floating around in my head. And then two, since I'm
Michelle, do you get
important.
into construction loans at all?
I was just mentioning,
Or refinancing?
we just opened up last week, 100% construction financing, but
Wow.
it's only for USDA loans, so I don't do a ton of USDA loans. I'll probably do a few more now, but they're for rural areas, and they have income limits, so I think you can really only make about $75,000 total household income. So that's not my main niche, but it's something that we.
It's available now.
And we do have rehab loans, where if you buy an existing property, then you can do renovations to that, and we can roll that all into one. But if you start with just a lot,
important to know.
Mhm.
yeah, if you start with just a lot, we're unable to do those.
But renovation loans is probably where it would be
That's where the bulk
the
of it.
synergy.
And that's huge.
People don't
because-
know how to pay for
Right,
renovations.
no.
Yeah, and we can roll it into.
If they don't,
And
and-
Chris needs them to know how to pay for it.
Oh my God, well, yes.
And so does Fort Gals.
Yes.
Yes.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And Mr. Chris, I happen to know, and I know you're here because we invited you, and we're really glad you're here, but tell us about you.
I'm always happy to gain more knowledge, especially things that can help you with my customers.
Awesome.
So, I'm Kris Keller. I'm with Fusion Media Systems. We do like home automation, lighting control, window coverings. My focus is the window coverings part of it. We do motorized shades, also manual shades, drapery hardware, that kind of thing.
Beautiful drapery hardware. We're working with Chris right now on a commercial project in Clayton for clients of ours.
Motorized drapery at times as well, but I've worked with designers for years. So that's kind of what I specialize in, and I'm happy to be here to support Kris and what she's doing, and I'm happy to gain some knowledge. Hey, it could even help me in my own home.
That's
So.
really cool, because I've used Fusion Media in the past to do media. I had no idea you did drapes.
Isn't that cool?
I never would
It's
have
a whole, I know, I mean,
Mhm.
seriously, that is like
Yeah, it's-
one-stop shopping. It's pretty cool.
I've kind of opened up more, a broader, product selection for them. So those are new areas
That's so good.
for Fusion.
We'll do
Yeah.
a whole workshop on that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is a whole
Totally
workshop.
good.
That'd be great.
Well, I have a question. Did you bring any cards?
Yeah.
Well, I have somebody right now who's wanting to have their TV come in and out of their granite.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
is that something like they would?
We can do that.
Okay,
Yeah. We have
great.
motors for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. They brought it to me and I was like, well, I'll research it and see what I can
Yeah.
find. Yeah.
Yeah, we can totally do that.
There you go. Now you can go tell them you did your research.
And this is why we're here.
We have the motors so that it can come out of a piece of furniture or drop down from a ceiling. There's a lot of ways to hide televisions these days, so
Right.
we definitely
That
specialize
is
in
so
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Totally my
Behind
workshop.
mirrors, behind paintings. we
I
talked about
know,
that the other day.
exactly, yeah. No, it really, I mean, and I love that you can create something that looks exactly like a mirror, and it is a mirror, but then when you turn it on, it's actually the
Yeah.
television, and we frame those, and it just looks beautiful,
We
but then
can hide
it's.
the sound, speakers.
Yeah,
you can-
completely.
You can even put things inside walls.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Can I have a card?
Yeah.
You know, Jean's not gonna move now, she's gonna. It's dropping down. New colors, I love my house.
Yeah.
Well, let's begin, and what we're gonna begin by doing, we're all feeling much more related now, which is awesome. The nature of what we're going to talk about today, which is gonna answer pretty much, I think, every single question that we've gotten and every thought that we've shared. In design, because I've been involved in this industry for such a very, very long time, 35 years, I have learned, and it's been really important to me to create a very distilled conversation about, well, what is design? You know, it's as big as the world is large, and the sky goes up and all of that. So it really has come to me over time and been very intentional on my part to create a very simple philosophy, which is gonna make sense to everybody. Remember, we talked about that a little bit before we actually started, that I was gonna kind of explain in very simple terms. And you have this too within your presentation. So, here it is, drum roll. We have context and we have content. That's it. all of design is either in the context or the content. So now, what is context? Context is everything that has to do with floors, walls, ceilings. That is always the context. The context is always decisive. What does that mean? It always dictates and predicts what the contents want to be. It's that starting point from which everything, it's the wellspring for everything else, which are the contents. So that's my very simple but accurate viewpoint of what design is really all about. And it's everything in our world, because there isn't anything that isn't part of, God's design, our design. It's all synonymous. But there's always a context and there's always content. My belief is that we want to start our journey with design with establishing a powerful context. It's that support structure. If you look outside, what is the context that you see? Well, you see that we have the beautiful green grass and we have the sky above. And what do the walls become? The trees and the vertical lift of varying degrees that we receive. Buildings can be part of a context too. So our homes become that which supports us. And that's what really is important. So when you talk about color, Jean, and wanting to really feel good in your home, that's what we're all about. My mantra has been with me for a very long time, and it's simple, and that is that our clients will awaken every single day falling in love with their home over and over again. I am so blessed because I developed that as a mantra, and it really just is. It's what gets me up every single day, because I'm blessed to be able to live like that. Many years ago, I realized, oh my gosh, my little teeny odd West County home is that for me. It is that wellspring that feels so good, and I do fall in love with it over and over every day. So I want my clients to have that same experience. So then I started kind of delving into what has created that. What is that all about? And a lot of what I am involved in is the energetic world, which is everything beyond, the physical world. And it's interesting to me because societally and just as a species, we're starting to really open ourselves up to what this energetic world really is about. And not in a woo-woo way, but we're realizing that we are more, that life is more than just this experience of getting on the highway and driving, or we really are starting to slow down and acknowledge that we feel best when we feel supported. And where do we want to start that support process? In our homes. Many years ago, a trendsetter out of New York City, Faith Popcorn, very cool lady, back in the 90s, she was like the go-to, the guru, the female guru go-to for all trends. And one of the trends that she predicted, which stuck with me very succinctly, was the idea of cocooning. And initially she was just completely laughed at, and it was, because she was well ahead of her time. But interestingly, now in 2018, some 30 years later, what are we doing? We are really cocooning in such extreme measure that we don't even want to go shopping. I mean, I'm looking at this discount center and I see and hear and read, as do we all, everybody wants to shop online. More so now than ever, we want our homes to really be the centerpiece of our lives. So they offer abundant support in a myriad of ways, both in terms of technology, which is what, I'm really happy that Kris is here, because that's just a whole nother huge conversation. But ahead of and before the technology is imbued into any space, we create the context. Always the simplicity of life goes back to that. I like being able to keep things really simple because I feel as if our minds are so cluttered as it is, with so much input, the computer, there's never an end to what's available, and our mind is constantly trying to grasp at more. So when we can distill any particular discipline to something that's a very simple structure, it immediately calms our mind, and it makes us feel very connected and very present. And it really allows us to have this experience of feeling great in our homes. So a big, huge part of creating a context is color. It's quick, it's easy, it's cost effective, and it allows you to play. Because that's another thing that's really missing. You know, what is there not a lot of time for usually? Play. It has become the unfortunate stepchild. Well, everything else is done, and maybe, and I can play. But color gives you that opportunity to have some lightheartedness too in your own home, and to be an adventurer, and to really look at color in a new way. It's not about, we talked a little bit about earlier, my friends that are in the cabinet business, you're probably beyond tired, exhausted by white cabinetry and gray, you know, the grayish. We all are. So the gift of being tired of something is that we get to change it. And what we're starting to experience is that color is becoming so much more personal. It's this opportunity to be an adventurer and to really explore what feels good to you. Because the most important thing to me as a designer isn't throwing what I think into the mix, it's helping extract from you, what do you love, what do you feel passionately about? Because designing your home is really a co-creation. It's working together. That's always when we are the most powerful as a species. When we are in our heads just by ourselves, nothing really much good goes on there. It's when we're out in the world and we're sharing and we're working together that real change and passion and the fun of being alive can occur. And same thing with design. So I always say to my clients, this isn't about me, and it really isn't about me. What I am, which is a gift, and I'm grateful, is a good conductor. And I conduct all of the energy and the business of, you know, both the pragmatic and the esoteric, every aspect of designing a project. And because I've done it for such an incredibly long time, I'm very seasoned and I'm very experienced. So together we can go on a journey that is so supportive and so loving and really just feels good. So we're not going to be going on any specific part of the journey today other than the exploration of color. Because, again, that's one of the primary first aspects of creating our context. We want to understand, we've got all these contents, you know, cabinets are really the contents, right? So I can understand where you could feel frustrated, you know, because you're dealing with contents, but you're creating a context. Well, it's a little backwards, it's a little truncated. So I really do believe, and last night we had a very thoughtful question. One of our audience asked me, so is it important to pick the sofa first or pick the wall color? And I said, well, here's the thing. Either can come first. If we start with an inspiration, and the inspiration can be anything, and we're going to look at some inspirations that we pulled out of our studio in the way of some wall coverings, some fabric, a scarf that I happen to have, and we're going to talk about how we can play with inspirations too to create color. So if you happen to already have the cabinetry, the sofa, any piece of content, but what's missing is the context, we still want to go back and lay in that foundation. Every home, every environment has built-in architecture, has built-in features and assets that, given the opportunity, want to shine, want to be more than what they are today. And we can accomplish that by a thoughtful application of color. We want visitors in your home to come in, we want you in your home to come in and go, wow, this feels amazing. I want this feeling. That's what's attractive. That's what's attractive about humans too. Because what is it that we all really want? We want to feel good. So why wouldn't it make sense that we want our homes to feel good too? Because that's what attracts someone else to your home, and that's what attracts you to your own home, and that's what keeps feeding you. Because we need to nurture ourselves. We have to be feeding ourselves. we can go out in nature and it's fabulous. We can be fed exponentially by just taking a walk. You know, the trees, the energy from the trees and the grass, and oh my goodness, it's heady. But why can't we have that experience in our own homes? We can. We really can. It just takes being a bit more thoughtful and really thinking about what it is in the way of color and texture makes us feel really good. It literally is heart opening, you know, and that is what we're all about, is to create that platform to live from, through, and by. So today, what we've done, it was fun too. Jessica and I had the opportunity for you lovely folks here to create our own color personality going into 2019. You all have this. And this has really not a lot to do with trends, although interestingly, when we received just last night from Benjamin Moore, their color trend, and you guys all have it, the fan deck of 2019, we literally have some of the same colors. Now, is that surprising? Not necessarily, because again, it's all about energy. And that's kind of what all this is about. Everything's energy. So the gift of understanding that we actually were right on the mark with making we've got some simpatico color selections, is to understand that as humans, what we are craving right now is this more individualized approach to color. You can see, do we have any gray at all? Well, we have this is a gray, and this is kind of a blue, gray, you know, but everything, and this is really a dark navy actually. This is our only kind of nod to gray. Everything else is really soothing. The color palette that we've put together has a velvety feeling. I love color. There's two approaches to color. One is that it is soft and kind of soothing in nature. We're going to say earthy. I've been doing a lot of reading online and just, you know, absorbing what's happening in color this year. And the number one word that I'm hearing over and over is earthy. So that makes sense to me, because I always gravitate toward the earth and colors that are earthy or organic versus kind of that citrus, really crisp, staccato feeling. I can appreciate those type of color palettes and accents, but they also psychologically push us away. And it's a different way of looking at color. These colors pull us in. They pull us in because they're very soft, they're muted, and they almost feel as if you touch them, they'd be velvety. They just feel that way. You were going to say something.
I was just gonna say the color in the middle, that orange color. Orange
Yes.
is my favorite color. Like
Yes,
a fire.
me too. I love.
So
That's my favorite color
I
too.
painted my kitchen a very similar, it's called Firebush, I think, or something.
This is
and
Potter's wheel, actually.
I had so many people when I first painted said, you painted your kitchen kind of orange. I was like, yeah. And everybody said how warm it was. And then a friend of mine sent me an article, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this too, that said eating in an orange kitchen makes the food more appetizing. It actually enhances your appetite. It tastes better. Have you seen that with colors as far as what the research says is?
Well, it's interesting. So color, in terms of research, and this is where I am possibly a little bit of a renegade, or maybe just so individualized that I don't necessarily look at the psychology of color in terms of the strict psychology of color or feng shui. I mean, I've studied a lot of that, you know, those disciplines over time to be able to have a full-bodied, more understanding of color. But what I've really come to the conclusion is that the most important thing about color, the very most important thing about color, is that it resonates with each person. The colors in your home, the colors that you wear, the colors that you surround yourself with, they have to resonate with you, with all of us. So I don't necessarily cotton to the idea, you know, that blue is inherently cool, because blue doesn't have to be cool at all. I mean, these are different shades of blue that tend to be really very warm. Even this blue tends to feel a little bit more warm. So the coolness and the warmth of a color just depends upon where in the continuum it falls as it relates to white and black. I think that it's more important to surround yourself with colors that feel good for you. And the other thing that I do look at, and it's really an important aspect of the work that we do, is to look at the architecture in your home and what I consider to be the hard assets, those things that really aren't going to be changed. Typically, when we're doing a color transformation, it may be that the cabinets and the counters and that kind of thing are not going to be changed. But we can completely change the look of those white cabinets and soften them very, very much by adding an unexpected or a surprising wall color. You know, white is so harsh. It's very interesting that we all thought we had to have this white kitchen. Everything was very bleached. It was very, and now we're wanting, how do we put warmth back into that? So really almost any of these colors can be crafted to work very well with the white, but we have to be careful because when white is so cold and so hard, it becomes challenging to try to warm that up. And so that's one of the things that we do very well. We can do that with changing hardware and that kind of thing. But to answer your question, which I haven't done, that beautiful kind of terracotta, coppery, this kind of a feeling in a kitchen, does that make the food taste better? Here's my supposition about that. Because it feels so inherently great for you, it makes you feel better, and your energy is, you know, you're gonna be at the top of your energetic game, and everything about what's occurring in that space with your family and your friends is gonna feel so good that it's going to imbue the space with all that positivity that you're really wanting, and you're loving it. Now, it can be, and Sarah, I wish you were here because she would really be able to speak to this. She helped me purchase a home a couple years ago, and we looked, she kept saying to me, but you're a designer, you can change these houses. I wanted, you know, what I wanted. We all do, right? And so, long and short, we ended up going through probably about 100 properties. Quite a few. It's a little intense. I admit it. I'm not gonna shy away from my part in that. But in so doing, we were able to see a lot of homes that were not working in a color world. Now, did the homeowners love that color? I don't know. I would kind of hope not, but maybe they did. So what happens is that when we are not connected with ourselves, you know, because life has gone in this direction or that direction, or we lose kind of parts of ourselves. You know, we're kind of scattered all over the planet. So part of the responsibility that we have to ourselves in our own growth is just to kind of start collecting the pieces. Working with color is just such a great way of being able to achieve that. So I believe that when we really are aligned with our color personalities in our home, and the home is aligned with the color, you know, it's all working together in tandem, you're going to have a result that's really powerful, and you're going to feel what you want to feel, which is whether or not your house sells, you're going to fall in love with your home every single day over and over. So one of the things that we decided today when we were just brainstorming about what is this presentation want to be was how to have color confidence, how to start making color selections in a more confident way. So much of what I've been sharing with you is in an effort to kind of open up your minds a little bit and just start thinking a little differently about color and how you can play with color and how you can work with color too. I've brought some examples of how not to work with color, and it's a little bit hard to see because I know the backdrop, you know, we've got the light kind of pouring in from behind, but how not to work with color and then how to work with color. So this happens to be a piece of wallpaper, and it's, you know, it's got quite a lot of character. I mean, it's pretty bold in and of itself. And it's got a harsh kind of white background. It's a good example because of its contrasty nature. So we love this, and we want to use it as an accent wall in our daughter's bedroom, but how do we keep it soft so that it doesn't feel too overpowering? Well, when I really started playing with the wallpaper and matching up exactly as it were, or close to it, the color palette, look at how bright it became. Now, that would be a challenge to try to paint any of these colors, but yet I see this in clients' homes all the time. So and I really had this happen. This paper was in a little girl's room, and my homeowners had painted the walls this pink. and they were very unhappy. But we took it to the paint store, they matched the color, but we don't like it. No, because it's really too strong. So one of the first rules that we start playing with is that we don't want to have an exact match for anything. First of all, it's not really possible, but secondly, we want to look at the underbelly of color so that we can see what the nuances are. What is there that can be workable, but also very livable. So in that genre, we came back and said, ooh, this is just so much softer because it's pulling in some of these notes. This is softer because it's pulling in without being exact to anything, some of the other subtle notes. So here we have colors that really, really work, and there we have colors that really don't. And so we're still in the same family of color, but these are the more crisp, citrusy, staccato colors, and these are the more organic colors, the more earthy. So that's the first thing to start thinking about, the earthiness of color. That's going to give you a greater sense of peace, because the more staccato a color is, the more challenging it is to live with, and it will tend to stop you when you come into a room. It literally can have your heart rate going at a faster clip. We don't want to do that at home. We want to slow the heart rate down and feel good. This fabric is another, it isn't quite as bold, but yet it has a lot of bold color to it. So if we were thinking in terms of sort of the exact matchiness of it, these were kind of the colors that I went to, that feel much more like these are exact. But when I settled it down and got off the coolness and that kind of intensity and started going into this direction, this feels so much better. It really, really does. So instead of thinking about having these two, which is, the kind of ochre with a brighter, love this color, but not in great quantity, if we thought about having walls that were maybe this deep color, or a ceiling that's this color, and walls this color with accents of that fabric, that then feels really good. It's just a different approach. And this is a whole series of color that really works nicely with that fabric versus that which also works, but is not going to give you that warmth that you're wanting to feel. These are just examples. It's just food for thought. Really it is. This is a scarf that I happen to have. And so, again, this is that more subtle, quiet, earthy feeling. And this is just, and it still kind of does work. It's hard for me to find colors. My brain is so kind of plugged into color that even trying to find disparate colors that don't really work as well. But these you can see, this just feels more bright and a little bit, whereas this is much more soft and feels more elegant, more approachable. Do you want the color in your home to be approachable, or do you want it to be standoffish? It's learning to look at color through a different lens and in a different language. So that way, when you are playing with color, your mind is going to see it differently and you're going to experience it differently. So that's a lot of what I'm, wanting to share with you. Yes?
Kind of what I'm seeing here, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this color still works, but on a much smaller scale, right? They look very similar, you
Right.
just wouldn't do
You wouldn't
strong.
right. This is just gonna bold out, whereas this is a more caramel, counterpoint, but it's actually going to envelop, whereas this is going to kind of be jarring, which I know it's subtle, and it can be subtle. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. I mean, with that wall covering, we could see. With this, we can see it's pretty obvious. This is a more subtle example, yes. It definitely is.
Yeah, the ones on the right are much more livable.
Right.
I
They-
definitely noticed it in that one.
Yes, exactly. And that's, and we've all done this. I have dear friends that I've designed for years and worked on their homes. One of my girlfriends moved to Colorado, and she purchased this darling coverlet for her daughter's room, and it had lime green in it. And she said, Kat wants lime green walls. I took it to the paint store and they matched the lime green. She goes, oh my gosh, it's horrible. I don't know what to do. And and I said, well, when I come to visit, we're gonna change it, which we did. But that's what happens when we start going for that exact match instead of looking at what's kind of underneath and what's softer and what, you know, in any particular fabric, anything that we have in our home, what attracted us to that? What attracted us to that to begin with? What inside that piece of fabric or that scarf or whatever it is that we're working with, what is it about that we really like? And when we start dissecting that, we can start seeing some real subtleties inside of whatever that material is to start pulling our color from. Instead of what's obvious and just sitting on the surface. We want to dig in instead of just sitting on the surface. And not be afraid to dig in. And you know, it's kind of an unusual conversation because I don't think that we necessarily even think about it, you know? To really explore color. Color is everything. It is so powerful. It's one of our greatest assets, you know, for our own development, for our own well-being. And yet, we're just on autopilot with it. So it's just an opportunity to look at color in ways that do really feel good. And our home just happens to be the largest backdrop that we have available for that exploration. And which is true, it's only paint. If you try something and it doesn't feel right, because you'll know, it just doesn't feel right, change it. There's no right or wrong. It's a can of paint and it's okay. I do always recommend to clients that they go with a paint that is a matte finish, a very, very low luster, because that helps give it that kind of velvety hand. So when we're painting trim, we have another question last night from one of our audience members that was really good, and that was the gloss level. How much gloss do we want to put on our millwork? Do we want really, you know, what's one thing you never do, I think was kind of how he led into that. And I said, well, there is one thing that I truly never do, and that is to paint millwork, especially when there's a great quantity of it, in a high lacquer white. I don't do it. Why? Because it's too challenging, which is the total problem with all this white cabinetry that is going to, I'm sorry to say, probably die a very sad death at this point. Because it's too harsh. You know, it's too hard. No color can come off of that really extremely lacquered, very, very cold white. Or the same thing with black. You know, for an eye blink, we went through kind of a black lacquer sort of a thing. The more harsh the color, and the harshness of a color is also predicted by the level of gloss, because when we create a very reflective surface, again, we tend to be pushing away from it and not drawn into it. So I like to keep my finishes less glossy and much softer, so that we have this tendency to be able to go inside of them versus being kept out here, being pushed away. So this is just another fabric example, and again, here are the more kind of exact matches, but this is so much softer. And it's just kind of fun to be able to see how that really plays out. What questions might we have? I know we've been talking about a lot of different things, and I see the look on everybody's face, like, oh my goodness, okay, cool. What thoughts are we having? Is there anything that anybody would like to share?
When your house is really open, plenty of room to edit.
Yes, that's another good question.
Should the colors all be the same, at least on the walls, or can you go a little differently? Like, for example, my kitchen is a different color from my living room, my dining room, which, you know, all can see each other.
It's fine. We work to create harmony, you know, when the space is completely open. But I also like to change up the color, and there are always, you know, places that it becomes very logical to do that. I mean, we have to, you know, with so many homes being so open, one of the things that I find to be very important, because we still want to create intimacy, so there's the balancing of the volume, because the interior space of a home, you know, as we're creating the context, within that context is the volume of the home. So I like to make sure that we're balancing our volumes, and when we have just one color that's kind of washing an entire space and it's a very open space, it can feel just too voluminous, and it doesn't, there's nothing to bring you in. You know, the goal is always to surround both the people that are living in the home and visitors with a warmth, so that when they come in, they feel good, they feel that warmth. And there's limitless ways of achieving that, but one of the ways with that open plan is exactly what you're speaking to create some accent walls and a little bit of personality with the color, so that it's not just an igloo of the same color. Yeah. So that's great that you did that.
So I kind of have a follow-up question for like how her house is set up.
Mhm.
So would you, like whenever you're entering in, would you start with like a lighter color and then have it go to the darker as you go through the house? Or
That's a
does
great
that,
question.
or does the dark?
It depends upon the overall balance that you're wanting to achieve. And you can start dark and go light, you can start dark and stay dark. You know, but you wanna be careful and use a hand. It's kind of like, and Kris, you're not a woman, but we're all, you know, when a woman is getting ready and you're putting on makeup. So part of what makes makeup look really pretty is that, you know, you're balancing a lot of lights and darks and, you know, to create a whole. So if you think about your home as kind of that painter's palette, you wanna make sure that you have a good play of color, or tonal quality of different colors working throughout. So whether you start light or dark or somewhere in the middle, or you have a color pop in the entry, that's all okay. It just has to be thoughtfully expressed, because, you know, a lot of times the contents can, we talked about having inspirations, that our contents frequently were our inspiration, and they really are. So if, for instance, in your entry, you have a magnificent area rug, you know, but it's got a really wow personality. It may be that it's got a deeper charcoaly something running through it. You might wanna have your entry be a charcoal, because the background of this area rug is really light, but then it's got this pattern, and that could be a wow factor. And then some accessories that are really light against that charcoal wall. I mean, you know, you wanna kind of be building a story with your color too. And the story can look so many different ways, you know. But you want it, the most important thing I feel, if I don't share anything else with you today that makes sense, is that you want to feel good in your environment. And typically the quickest way for that to occur is to think of color in terms of it being approachable or it stopping you. And to understand that the more warm the color that you use and the lower the left, you're going to feel pushed away by the color when the color is a more crisp, cool color that has a high level. Those are kind of some really basic ways of thinking about color. Are there any other questions? I think we've really kind of covered everything that I wanted to talk about, but I want to make sure that I'm giving you everything that you would like to have, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
What do you find are good colors in bathrooms?
Bathrooms are continuing to be kind of our spa-like retreats. So again, a color in a bathroom could be probably just about anything except red. I'm not thinking we want a red bathroom. That would be a little bit jarring. We still are loving, you know, a lot of popular bathroom colors, and I'm not advocating that these are the best solutions, but we're still kind of, you know, into this kind of these lighter color tones, or even this. Last night we had someone at the presentation who brought, because, you know, you had the opportunity to bring anything with you that you wanted, and we were gonna pick colors. And we did have a few people that did that. It was really fun. And one gal is redoing her master bath. And so we picked color for her right on the spot. This is one of our personal favorites at the Design Source. This is Revere Pewter, and it's been, and it happens to be one of Benjamin Moore's color of the year too, which just is a funny coincidence. But this color has been a personal favorite of ours for a really long time. and we went to this for her wall, and I don't remember, cloud white maybe for her ceiling. Very soft, giving her that spa kind of feeling. And she was just so excited. She goes, I really do like that. And I wouldn't have, that looked beige to me when it's there. She goes, but it's really not. So it's overwhelming when we're at the paint store and we're looking at all these color swatches. How in the heck do we figure this thing out? But the first step really is to just not have that feeling of overwhelmment, and instead have some sense of delight. You know, wow, this is really fun. And start really looking at color as being a friend and a discovery and a new relationship, you know? Because it really is all of that. The other thing that I caution our clients with, and I'm gonna caution you too, we don't actually allow it, I don't just caution them, I kind of say no. And that is what has become so popular. Everywhere we go, they have these little mini containers of paint, and they encourage you to take the paint home and put it on the wall. Well, guess what? That accomplishes nothing, because you're putting this color, which has no relationship to anything in this room, on a wall, and you're looking at it going, I don't like that, that doesn't look good. So that doesn't work, and I always suggest don't do that. If it's important to you to experiment with color before you actually make that dive into the color, which is fine, get yourself a piece of board. You know, go to Office Depot and get a piece of foam core and paint 2 coats on that piece of foam core. That is a large enough sample, and it's not going to be hanging on, it's going to be hanging over the existing wall color. But you can also put it, you can move it around the room, you can put it next to things and furniture. You know, you have to start to learn to look at the relationships in the room when you're trying to select a new color, not just put a little bit on the wall and think it doesn't work. So I hope that helps you too, because that's, for us, well, when we do color transformations, of which we do just a lot of them, both residentially and commercially, we always say to clients, they'll say, well, I just don't know. We're doing a historic home right now in Alabama. And it's in a really small little community, and you can see this home from the road. I mean, it's literally a little kind of a very petite little town, and it's been a beloved, it's called Seven Gables, it's been a beloved home in this community for ever since its inception in the early 30s. So now we come and we're, you know, the big city designers that are changing up everything for this house. The poor homeowners, I mean, we just love them. They have been beside themselves because of the colors for the exterior, because, you know, we're changing this home. And at one point, Pam sent an email. She said, I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I just don't know if we can do this. I mean, it's not just us, it's the whole community. What if nobody likes it? And, you know, this is a lot of pressure to stand tall, because we can't just fly back down to Alabama. And so I said, it's gonna be perfect. Trust us. I'm not in the least bit concerned about it. And it's done, and they absolutely love it. So it's not easy for me to be able to stand that tall in the weed patch. It's taken me years and years and years of experience to be able to say, let go of the shore. It's gonna be fine. Because I honestly know that it will. Not to say that we don't, at times, a client might say, well, I get that this is a great color, I just don't love it. It's very rare, I can't even, you know, it just doesn't happen. Why? Because it's a muscle that's been developed. Each of you can develop that same muscle. It's a choice, you know, and it's a fun choice. Because you're gonna be surrounded by color. Color is everything forever. So it's kind of a neat thought to develop a new relationship with it. You know, at one point I lease cars, you know, my company leases cars for me. And I've leased cars from the same person for 30 years. And at one point I said to him, I do not want another car that has a gray interior, because it's too depressing. I realized that I couldn't have it anymore. So
So
That-
what color do you have now?
I've got a real light buff. It's, kind of a warm sandy buff, very light. And it's kind of the color of this countertop. And that feels good to me. I'm happy with that. I really meant it. I couldn't do a gray leather interior again. So it's just starting to acknowledge what it is that you're feeling about color and really allowing that in. Because we all have these experiences, but we just kind of push them aside like it doesn't matter. But there's nothing that really matters more than the relationship that we have with color.
It's been great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this.
Good. Good. Well,
There was one more question.
of course, we can do anything you want to do. I'm here for you.
I have white cabinets,
Okay.
and I have black granite
Okay.
and stainless steel. And I want the kitchen to be warm. Right now, it just happens to be green, but I think I want to paint it because I don't think it's a green that everybody would like.
Okay.
I don't know what way, I love green, and I love that one over there.
That's isn't that a yummy green?
Isn't it
Yeah.
close to what you have, Jean? I'm trying to, isn't it sort of a minty or?
Yeah, kind of.
This green, I'm trying to, Jess, what is that green? Do we have one of our little colors?
It could be
But I'm not
Rain
stuck on
Dance,
green. I
maybe.
just want it to be,
There's Rain Dance is one of them,
This one
and
is
then
Rain Dance,
okay,
yeah.
and then the other one.
This is.
Yeah,
I think
yours
George-
is different.
Yes. is
Yeah,
that a William-
no, Georgian green is that one,
Yours is it's very different than that.
I think.
It's almost at the very end. It's the second to the last one.
Oh, there it is. Okay, so that would be Heather Gray.
Heather gray.
So, which is, again, they're calling it gray. Well, is it gray? No, it's kind of a green gray.
Second to the last one.
That would be beautiful with your white and black. It would soften it a lot.
Yeah, does that take everything?
21, 34, 30, is that what it is?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that color green.
It's very pretty, isn't it? So that would really, look at the tabletop. How nice, it happens to be black. So, see, this is really lovely. Oh, that's very pretty. And then your cabinets are white, that really, and then just some accessories and what is your backsplash?
it's non-existent.
Okay. Well, and so, the opportunity could be to add a little backsplash to, continue that softening.
What color?
I would say that we would wanna go into something that would be just a little bit more earthy. You might wanna add a subway tile and maybe do a grout in a different color. We'd wanna play with that. I don't think you'd wanna go black or white with the backsplash. But it could be, there's, tile, that's just another amazing world. The world of tile, oh my goodness, it's just unbelievable what's out there. But we could play with you. I could, but to just tell you, well, this color, I don't want to do that because I feel as if that could be truncating it too much.
Great.
But it's just another element that could serve to soften.
Great.
The other thing too, what hardware do you have on the cabinets?
Right now it's black.
Okay, so maybe that could be softened up a little bit too, to like an aged pewtery, just getting the softness into your finishes, as many as you can. And are your cabinets, are they a painted white, are they?
These are from, this house was built in '97, so
Okay.
it's that white,
The
that
vinyl
plastic
extrusion.
junk, whatever
Mhm.
it is, so I can't even change them.
Well, I'll tell you something, and not to confuse you, but we do have a painting company. There is now a painting product. We can paint those.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Actually paint them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And they will stay painted.
Oh, my God.
You mean the counters?
No, cabinets. We do, some people do counters, I'm not,
Yeah, I know, I've heard of stuff out
I'm
there.
not,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that so much, but we can paint the cabinets,
Oh, interesting.
honestly, and they'll turn out really well.
And it works for the laminated?
Yep, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, if you use the right primer too, that's like when it's
Yep.
about the laminate products, if you use a good primer, it should you shouldn't have a
And then we
problem.
have the door spray, you know, it's a process, but we do, we have one of our painting contractors that pretty much that's their specialty, and
Mhm.
they do a great job. So, I mean, that's an option too. Is it, you know, like having a brand new cabinet?
Right.
I don't know. We've had a lot of success, clients that really do love it.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Right. Do you make house calls at Innsbruck?
Oh, yes, we do.
We sure do.
We have
Yep.
a lot of houses at Innsbruck.
We go out there a lot, especially during the holidays.
I mean, I'm not kidding you, yeah, we
Mhm.
do a lot of work at Innsbruck.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know of all the things we've given you, if we gave you a card in your goodie bag. I'll give you a card though, because
Probably not.
I don't think we did.
No.
There you go.
Minor
Come on,
detail.
guys. Don't
Right.
worry.
And you can always
Oh.
reach them through me too.
Yeah.